Hi everybody, welcome. Today we are here as Manch, and with us we have Mr. Namkha, who is a lawyer. He's joining us based on our invite, and we've invited him here to talk to us today because there are a lot of people like us, I think, in Sikkim right now who are wondering what is this commotion about exactly. Like, we've all got the gist of it, we've all heard things here and there and seen it on the news, but if you really want to know what is it about and understand it in simple terms, I think that's what we are looking for. And I hope that our discussion today helps us understand what it's about. And yeah, so maybe we can begin by asking Mr. Namka to tell us a little bit about the verdict, and then we'll start grilling him with some questions.
So as far as this judgment is concerned, it's a judgment that has come out from the Supreme Court, Honorable Supreme Court of India, and this judgment basically deals with a section of people who were not given the exemption under the Income Tax Act 1961, and their case before the Supreme Court was that they are at par with other people as far as Sikkim Subject holders are concerned, and other category, two more categories are concerned, and that they should also be equated along with these category of people. And of course the Supreme Court in its wisdom thought it right and have granted their prayers, after which of course 1026 AAA has been will be slightly modified, and proviso, there's a proviso also as far as the proviso clause of 1026 AAA that has been struck down because it differentiated between a Sikkimese girls married to non-Sikkimese prior to 1st of April 2008 and after 2008. So if your girls plan to marry now to anyone who is a non-Sikkimese, you will be taxed. But because of the Supreme Court judgment, you will not be taxed like the people who had married prior to 1st of April 2008.
Now we get to keep what is rightfully ours.
How so?
Because otherwise we were entitled to the Sikkim Subject anyway. So just think, we have a friend who is a boy. Suppose Suvarna is a boy, and she gets married. She still gets to keep everything that is entitled to her based on her Sikkim Subject. And I'm a girl, and I get married, and I don't get to have it. So how's that fair?
Now we must understand this. Okay, just on your thing, what we must understand is this is with respect to exemption as far as income tax is concerned. Yeah. Okay, this does not relate to any other issue. It only ties down that if you make money, right, in Sikkim, right, you will not be taxed, despite the fact that you marry a non-Sikkimese. I'm talking about the girls, that proviso only.
Okay.
So we understand that this was all about. Okay, sorry. So we understand that this was all about income tax exemption and all of that. But then there have been a few people who have been saying that this judgment also puts the Sikkimese identity into question. So is there really a threat to that, or like with regards to the judgment?
For me, no. A straight answer would be no. I'm a Sikkimese, right? We all are Sikkimese. Nobody can take that away from us, right? Of course, Supreme Court has dealt with the term Sikkimese that has been explained in the income tax, right? There, when the legislator said who should be exempted from payment of tax, so they have given a category of people. So what they have said is 1026 AAA, all Sikkimese, right, will be exempt from tax if the income is derived from Sikkim. If you earn income from Sikkim, you will be exempted. Now thereafter, in the explanation part of that section, they have said who Sikkimese are. There are 3 categories of Sikkimese in that, right. The first category of Sikkimese that they have said is whose names were registered in the Sikkim Subject register. The second category of people are people whose names were left out but were subsequently included via notification 1990 and 1991. Okay, that those were people who were called the left out communities. And the third category of people is supposing you are able to prove that your father or your brother or father's brother, his name is recorded in the Sikkim Subject, you are also entitled to that exemption. So that was the term, that was how Sikkimese was explained in the income tax.
So there is no, so this then what I'm understanding is this just pertains to the Income Tax Act, and it's just about that, and not really talking about the Sikkimese identity as such.
Legally speaking, right, the fear now is that this might be misinterpreted, might be misused. Okay, this judgment, because a judgment of Supreme Court becomes a precedent, it is almost like a law. As far as the other courts are concerned, below courts are concerned, the High Court, then comes the District Court and all. So that's the fear all about, right? That's the fear. Somebody might misinterpret it, right? That striking down of the term Sikkimese, and of course giving them equal right, but that right is only with respect to the income tax. So with that judgment, they might seek for other rights. So I think that's the basic general fear in the minds of our people.
So this verdict that they gave, a document, a PDF, it was very long, right? And I was just wondering, like, how do I think that also created kind of like the confusion. It's very vague for like general people like us, and it's very hard for us to read and understand also. And also, like, after this verdict was passed, there was no controversy or no news regarding that for like the controversy bit for quite a long time. And after like a week or two, then like the protests and all started happening. And so why do you think that was the case? Like, why was there immediately no protest by the people?
I think people needed to read it, go through it, understand it, and then of course, as you know, Sikkimese, we as a community takes time to wake up, right? You have a difficulty in waking up in the morning, but in this sense, that is with every subject, right? Somebody has to start, a movement, and then everybody starts waking up, and now that's, I think, rightly so. We all have woken up from our slumber sleep, and this is the time to actually introspect within ourselves and then see where it goes from here, right? As far as the judgment is concerned, you said of course we also need to go through it through 3-4 times. As far as understanding of the judgment is concerned, I feel to understand the judgment, the history of Sikkim, right, the history of how Income Tax Act was extended and thereafter implemented, that is also important. And of course, why did this group of people go to the Supreme Court, and what actually happened in the Supreme Court, that is also important. Once we understand all these things, and of course I'm sure the judgment will be clear to everybody.
Okay, so I have another question, like, so I tried to go through the verdict and there was judgment by 2 different judges, I believe. And the controversial part was in the second judge's judgment. So did he, like, was it a mistake on his part, or I'm sure he didn't mean to offend the Sikkimese people, or like did he take that statement from somewhere else, like a document from the past, or did he deduce that by himself, or how does that work?
What do you call the person who is filing the case? The
Okay.
petitioner.
Petitioner.
Was it from the petitioners?
So what happens in the case is, any case for that matter, okay, in any case in a court of law, this is a writ jurisdiction, right? And then you have the civil matter. It's almost similar, right? A person who approaches the court, they are known as the petitioner when it comes to writ petition or special leave petition, that is in the Supreme Court, right? A writ petition, you can approach anybody, whoever is aggrieved by your fundamental rights, right to equality, right? Then you can approach the Honorable High Court or the Honorable Supreme Court, right? So these group of people being aggrieved, right? They said that they've been aggrieved, so they approach the Honorable Supreme Court and file a writ petition. So once you file a writ petition, when somebody files a writ petition, then of course you make there will be a respondent, that is who you want to answer. That basically it is the authority. So in this case, the Government of India that deals with the income tax issue and the state government was a party. So they are the two respondents. So petitioner files a case. Thereafter there is a stage in which once the petition is admitted by the Supreme Court, then there is a stage in which the respondent files the counter affidavit. Okay, the petitioner writes whatever he has to write in his petition and submits it to the Supreme Court. Yeah. Now the respondent's role is to understand what the context of the matter is, to refute to the allegations that has been made or any facts that has been placed before the Honorable Supreme Court. From that, whatever materials has been provided, and of course if there are any judgments that the Supreme Court has referred to or the party has referred to, within that ambit only a judge is bound to give his judgment. Okay. I cannot give, if I am a judge and there is a case between two of you, right, and I know you, you are my neighbor, so I know your character and I know her character also. In my personal knowledge, I have a lot of information that is coming in my mind, but that is not there in your petition or her petition. I cannot write a judgment based on what I know about you. It can only be what the petitioner has stated and what the respondent have stated in their writ petition and counter affidavit. The culmination of that is the judgment. So I think the second issue is, how did this judgment come about? Now as far as reading of the judgment is concerned, there are parts of the judgment. How this judgment has gone is, initially the judge has talked about what the case of the petitioner, what the grievance and the prayer of the petitioner is. So what they want from the Honorable Supreme Court, that is what they have stated in the first portion of the judgment. Second portion of the judgment is they have gone into the historical background of Sikkim. The third portion of the judgment is they have gone into the history about the income tax and what this Old Settlers all are about. Thereafter they have discussed, and that's what the discussion took place. And finally is what the judgment is all about. So what is important is what the judges have said in the final. That is the direction or what the judgment is meant to be. Not what has been discussed or not what has been observed and what has been stated by the petitioner. Your query was it said by the petitioners? In this case, the history is very, very important. The petitioners had approached the Honorable Supreme Court in the year 2013. They had filed a writ petition. In that, of course, they had used certain terms which were offensive to the people of Sikkim, right? And in the year 2013 itself, there was some hue and cry. So when there was a hue and cry, they amended the writ petition and they removed all these offensive words, sentences that was made, the facts that were made, and they removed it. Thereafter, they had filed an amended writ petition. So all these things were not there in the writ petition, amended writ petition.
So how did it come about again now if it was removed?
That I will not be able to answer to you, how it came about once it was removed, and now it has come about. So that is why people have now approached, the concerned authorities have approached the Honorable Supreme Court for review of the judgment.
Okay.
But the part, the second part where these words have been used, that's not the judgment as per se, right? It's
No.
just an observation.
No, it's a part of the judgment, right? It's a part of the judgment, but what is the relevant portion of the judgment is towards the end. That is just a discussion. Okay, I'll just since you've said that you're talking about, I'll just read it. That is stated in para 10A of the judgment. That is the second portion of the judgment. Okay, that's page I think 50.
56.
I hope it's recording. Hi Veera. By the way, this is Veera.
Hello, hello. No problem. Okay, this is para 10. I'm just reading what it says. The legal and factual development prior to the introduction of the Income Tax Act 1961 in Sikkim could be encapsulated as the controversy in these cases arises under the said Act A. In 1948, the Income Tax Manual 1948 was promulgated by the rule of Sikkim, the Jorgay. Under SITM, all persons engaged in business were subjected to tax irrespective of their origin. Therefore, there was no differences made out between the original inhabitants of Sikkim, namely the Bhutia and Lepcha, and the persons of foreign origin settled in Sikkim, like the Nepalese or person of Indian origin who had settled down in Sikkim generations back. It is averred that under the estimated income, so it is averred because somebody has stated that. That is what it is reflected here.
Okay.
So this is just a discussion that he is taking to come to a conclusion, because in order to say 2 plus 2 becomes 4, he is saying it is 2, there is a plus and there is a 2, so ultimately it comes to 4 bananas. So this is what the judge is C is discussing. This is I'll just correct the second judge that we talked about, in which this is there. I believe she is a lady justice of the Honorable Supreme Court. Right now, in this there are two. It's a bench judgment as far as this is concerned. Initial judgment is written by Justice Shah, that is from 1 to 29. The second part of the judgment is written by Justice Nagaratna. Both the judgments agree to a certain things, right? Both the judgment gives exemption to the old settlers, but they've explained why they should get it. So both the judges, that is why there's a difference, but the conclusion is the same. Old settlers should be given exemption, and the proviso as far as the married ladies are concerned needs to be struck down. So that is the concluding part of it, of the judgment.
So if it was just in like it was just something that was being discussed, then is it like okay, I don't know if are people overreacting, or is it a serious thing that something like this?
It's not overreaction. Of course, it hurts sentiment of the people, right? Something which should not be there, we feel, right? We can't say why it is written, why it is not written. The justices of the Honorable Supreme Court thought it fit to write it down, right? And I don't think so. Personally, I don't think so. People are overreacting. Of course, it hurts the sentiment of the people, and to us, our identity is very, very important, right? And people feel that it may dilute, or it's diluting that identity, right? When the entire Sikkimese term is struck down, right? Of course, people will be agitated. No. And for this, I think, as far as for you all to understand, I think the history of Sikkim, how it has come out about, is very, very important, so that you'll understand what the judgment is all about. Okay, I'll just go in the gist. So I'll just not go back too far back. Okay, 1948 there was an income tax manual. I don't know, your previous generation will be aware of it. So in this, all the contractors, business person were taxed equally, right, under the income tax manual. Then came the Sikkim Subject regulations, okay, which was promulgated by the Jorgay then, and then he gave a choice to all individuals. Okay, this is very, very important. Irrespective of the fact that you come from Timbuktu or whatever it is, he gave a choice to all the people of Sikkim. He treated all the people of Sikkim Sikkimese, and gave an option to the people that why don't you register yourself under the Sikkim Subject regulation, under the Sikkim Subject register, right? And we have people from business community who chose to register under the Sikkim Subject regulations, right? There are people still alive, so they chose, they became a subject of Sikkim, right? Thereafter came the tripartite agreement of 1973. Okay, this is the agreement between the Jorgay, the political parties of Sikkim, and the government of India. So this agreement was the aspirations of the people of Sikkim, the Jorgay, and of course the solemn promise made by the government of India, right? Based on this, then the 36th amendment came about in the year 1975. Okay, that is on 26th of April 1975. When we became, Sikkim became part of India, the 22nd state, okay, and thereafter constitution was amended and there was an insertion of 371F. It is the special article that was inserted for the state of Sikkim, right, where all the things have been stated, what it is, what Sikkim was, how it is, 371F, the protection of the old laws, all these things are discussed. Now thereafter, okay, we became a part of India. Now the government, we will have to become a citizen of the country, right? So what they said is, then after that they came about with the amendment of the Citizenship Act 1955 ma त्यो चाहिँ amend गर्यो on 21st June 1975 ma. So all people whose names were registered in the Sikkim Subject Register were included, were treated as a citizen of India, of our country now, right? And thereafter in 1981, because the Sikkim Subject को register त त्यतिबेला उयो भयो नि त, सक्यो नि त, हैन? So उनीहरुको नेक्स्ट जेनेरेसनलाई चाहिँ के दिने आइडेन्टिफिकेसनको लागि भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ then the state government in consultation with the central government came out with certificate of identification, right? That came out in the year 1981. Then त्यो हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ बादमा के भयो भने thereafter sometime in the year 1988 I think, suddenly some people realized that they have been left behind. They were also equally at par with the Sikkim Subject. They felt that they were left behind. So they made hue and cry. The government of Sikkim then approached government of India, and subsequently committee was also constituted and names were sent by the government of Sikkim to the government of India, after which verification took place, and through a notification in the year 1990 and 1991, two notifications had come out in which all these left out Sikkimese were also given a citizenship certificate, and they were also treated as a Sikkim Subject holder or something like that. Thereafter, okay, thereafter came 1989. 1989 मा चाहिँ when 1989 मा, in the same year, income tax was extended to the state of Sikkim. Okay, यति बेला पनि the old settlers did not make a hue and cry about it. Okay, यो 1989 को अगाडि, when all the left out people had approached and their names were to be included in the Sikkim Subject, they did not choose. यति बेला त Indian citizen र Sikkimese citizen को कुरै थिएन नि. It was only to include their name in the Sikkim Subject Register. They did not choose in their wise decision. Not everybody. Some of them did not choose to do so. Okay. Subsequently, then the income tax was extended to the state of Sikkim. Right now, when this act was extended, it was only extended. they could not implement it because of the hue and cry. Of course, the government of Sikkim also made a petition to the government of India. It should not be enforced. Okay, so subsequently, then committee was made how we are supposed to extend and enforce the income tax or whatever. So all these things were going on in between. In the year 2008, with the consensus of the state government and the central government, they amended the Income Tax Act 1961, and thereafter they amended and inserted 26 AAA in the Income Tax Act under clause 10. 26 AAA insert गरेर चाहिँ यो मान्छेहरुलाई चाहिँ exemption पाउनु पर्छ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ thereafter the old settlers realized that they have been left out. They will be taxed भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ then they started the movement. So this is how the old settlers came into being as an association of old settlers to fight for their right as far as exemption for income tax is concerned. So this is how it came about. That's the movement of the this is the history and the movement of the Income Tax Act.
So the old settlers, as per se, like they were never interested in other benefits of being a Sikkim subject and all of that.
That's what it shows, right? They've never asked for also.
Yeah.
They've never asked for.
It's just for the tax.
Yes, yes.
So I just have one question. So why is this income tax exemption granted to the people of Sikkim?
Yeah.
See, as far as exemption to income tax is concerned, we are not the only one exempted. You go to Northeast, almost every community is exempted from income tax. It is something that the government of India thought fit, right? And of course, it is not a privilege as such. If you look in that terms, this was a solemn promise made by the tripartite agreement, right? This in 1973 there was an agreement, right? And the government of India subsequently thought fit to grant exemption. Nobody asked for it, right? And when the government of India decided to give grant exemption, extend the income tax, but grant income tax to all the Sikkimese people, right? That is how it came into being. We are not the only one that is exempted.
Okay. So is it because they think we need like the people here need like assistance financially, that kind of extra support to?
I see. I really can't say what the government of India at that point of time thought about, right? See, till we became a part of India in the year 1975, right? From 75 to 89, income tax was never extended. Okay, how it was extended, why it was extended was because in the year 1980, 85, 86 and all, a lot of gift racket took place. I'm sure your parents must be aware of it. A lot of gift racket took place.
Sorry,
gift racket took place where people from affluent families in Mumbai, in other parts of the country, I believe transferred money to people of Sikkim, and people of Sikkim gave them gift, that same money, right? And they could overcome that income tax, taxing of this one income, your income and all. So the government of India realized this, and then they extended it. Otherwise, till then there was no talk of extension of the Income Tax Act and all. So this is how the history has come about.
Just a general question about tax. Isn't tax one of the like primary sources of income for the government to function? And exempting tax, like, it does seem nice if you think about like, oh, I don't have to pay tax and I'm happy. But then like, how will your place, like, how will your state or how will your country run then? So
see, as far as that is concerned, the government of India is running. It was running then also, it is running now also. So I don't think a drop of water in the ocean should not make a difference. But my thing would be, as long as it is there, enjoy it. Once you are taxed, you will know what the tax is all about. Right? We worked outside India, and then it only pinches to a person who actually gone through that. So just enjoy the taxes now.
So while we're on the topic of tax, this might be a silly question, but so people in Sikkim Sikkim subject holders don't have to pay income tax, and that is a special kind of privilege we enjoy.
Yeah.
And the Old Settlers said that under Article 14 it's unfair because they are
For them.
For them.
Yeah.
So why don't the rest of Indian citizens also say ki it's unfair for us also, because we are also Indian citizens, why are we paying? They are also Indian citizens, why are they not paying?
See, that issue is because they'll have to equate with us. Okay, the judgment talks about equality, right? Why they have been granted, the old settlers have been granted, is discussed in the judgment. Why they were equal, and why they were subsequently taxed, and why they should be given exemption. That is what is discussed as far as the petition is concerned. Now, rest of the country will not be at par with us, right? India got independence in the year 1947, right? We became a part of the country only in 1975 after the tripartite agreement, right? The history says that people chose to become a part of India, right? There was a referendum. That I do not know what happened on all those things. I do not want to go into it, but that is what the history has been written about, right? So there was an agreement, right? And the government of India have been granting tax exemption to so many other people from other communities in other parts of the country, thought it fit to grant exemption to people of Sikkim who became a citizen of India on their own choice.
Okay.
So I don't think so you can equate. Of course, if you legally, if you want to equate, of course there will be 10 points raised why it should be like you said, we are all citizens of the country and all. Of course, different classes of people have different rights even in the country, right? And I think हामीलाई चाहिँ के मिसकन्सेप्सन हुन्छ नि, हामीले मात्रै प्रिभिलेज पाउँदैछ जस्तो लाग्छ नि यहाँनिर. It is not so. If you go to Bengal also, if you talk about property rights, right, you cannot buy a tribal land in Bengal. If a general person in Bengal wants to buy a tribal land, you can't buy. You need a permission of the government, like us. So this is there in most of, you go to Jharkhand, you go to any tribal district and all, those enforcement are there. That constitution talks about it, upliftment of the backward classes, upliftment of the tribal society, upliftment of the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and all. Of course, those are all different topic to discuss about.
Hi. If my understanding of this case is correct, it started in 2013.
Yeah.
And it had the backing of the state government of that time as well. So recently, when the state government changed, did that affect the case, or what happened with the state's involvement in the case? Did it have an effect?
Very, very pertinent question. I think everybody must be see. So once their hue and cry, they did not get the exemption. So finally, they chose to go to the court. So they went to the court in the year 2013, formed an association. They went to the court, right? So when they go to the court, that is the writ petition that they have filed, right? Thereafter, on, I think this is on I think 2/8/2000 and this one, when this writ petition was considered by the Honorable Supreme Court, and when the order was passed in the year 2013, right? When the order was passed in the year 2013, then notices were issued to all the relevant people. In the petition, what they have stated is that their forefathers, their previous generations, had been residing in Sikkim 15 years prior to 1961. Right? This is very, very important. So they had been residing in the state of Sikkim as a people of Sikkim from the year 1946 onwards. Right? So they should also be equated with the other Sikkim subject holder as far as income tax exemption is concerned. So they went to the court, right? And they filed a writ petition This is the judgment. This is the copy of the writ petition that they filed. Okay, this is the copy of the writ petition that they had filed, right? And they had written a lot of things in the writ petition, history, and why they should be given equality. So they made a prayer, right? Initially they had filed another writ petition. Means the writ petition was filed and there was a hue and cry, like I said. So they amended the writ petition. So the amended writ petition does not contain about the foreign origin or immigrants and all those things. And even the prayers also they changed. Initially their prayer was, you have to listen to this. Initially their prayer was, you know what? Grant us exemption, otherwise cancel their exemption also. That was their prayer. So when the hue and cry came about, then they amended the writ petition. Okay, these are the prayers. What they have made, issue an appropriate writ striking down the proviso. Proviso deals with the ladies, right? Issue a writ in the nature of mandamus directing the respondent to extend the exemption granted under section 1026 AAA to the petitioners herein. Okay, so two prayers basically. One is proviso हटाऊ, अर्को second prayer चाहिँ उनीहरूलाई हामीलाई पनि exemption दिनु भनेर चाहिँ गरेको छ. So these were the petitioners. Originally there were 8 petitioners, right? The association and the members. Subsequently, in the same period, okay, that is 2/8/2013 itself, they realized that something is not correct. So they amended the writ petition and the petitioner number 1 withdrew herself from the said petition. So her name is deleted. The respondents are the Union of India and the State of Sikkim. So thereafter, the state government filed a response. This response was filed on 30th of 11/2013. So 30th November 2013, they filed a counter affidavit. This is the counter affidavit that they have filed. This counter affidavit was signed, as far as my record says, by Ruchika Rishi, aged 35 years. She was then, I think, having office at Sikkim House. The present affidavit is being filed on the basis of information furnished by the Home Department, Government of Sikkim. Having regard to the facts that even though the writ petition as originally framed, the petitioner had prayed for quashing such and such and all, they have taken. And then this is how it goes about. Okay, this is what they talk about. This is the counter affidavit that they have filed. The state government have basically stated that we do not have any problem if the exemption is given to them. So this is what the state government's counter affidavit is. Now the Union of India also have filed a counter affidavit. Then the petitioners filed a rejoinder. So that is the end of the petition. Thereafter the argument takes place. Okay, when the argument takes place, I must point out here, Government of India have objected to these prayers. They said that they are not entitled. Government of India ko stand चाहिँ that the old settlers should not be given exemption भनेर छ, right? That is reflected in their in the discussion that the justices have made also. I will just say Union of India ko, I will just read the Union of India ko stand, okay? That is at para 9, page 20 of the judgment. So what the Government of India says.
This is in 2013, right?
Yeah.
In response to the petition filed by.
This one's
I didn't get a point. What you were saying?
So the document that you're going to present,
Yes.
it is the counter.
I'm just reading the judgment.
Yeah. Okay.
It contains what the state have stated, huncha ni, what the argument was made, okay, by the two parties.
So if any of us wants to go refer to these documents from 2013, do we have access to it somewhere?
That you'll have to, I think, you'll have to contact your friends and all, and then get the thing. Of course, you will be able to get it. I think I think it's being circulated also. So this is the stand of the Government of India. Okay, what they have said is, Sri N. Venkatraman, learned ASG, has tried to justify. Now I must, before going into this, we can only argue what has been stated in the counter affidavit. We can't go beyond the counter affidavit. So state government ko counter affidavit यो हो, आज म गएर मन परि भन्नु सक्दैन. What the pleading is, you can only argue that much, right? Of course, you can bring in judgment. That's a different issue altogether. Judgment about similar case. So this is what, because I don't have the counter affidavit of the Union of India, so I'm just reading what they has tried to justify. Union of India, that is N. Venkatraman, learned ASG, has tried to justify the classification by submitting that a conscious decision has been taken by the legislature parliament to grant the benefit of exemption to only those Sikkim subjects whose names had been registered in the register maintained under the Sikkim Subject Regulation 1961. It is submitted that therefore the same may not be interfered with. However, he is not in a position to justify the classification and satisfy the court how such a classification will achieve the object and purpose of granting exemption under Section 26 AAA of the income tax. He is not in a position. He is also not in a position. So this is what he has said. As far as the argument of the Union of India is concerned, he says the classification, the exemption is very, very correct, and that is what it should be. It is only given to the Sikkim subject holder. This is what they have stated as far as the Union of India is concerned.
So, so they said like the petition should not be like allowed. But did they clearly state why they think so, Vanera?
They have given the justification why it should be, because they have classified, and at that point of time the parliament decided so. Of course, the parliament has a right to do all those things. They thought it justifiable at that point of time, and this is how the classification has been done.
And it said something like, however, they are not in the position to.
That is what the judges have discussed. Because the judges must have put some question, and at that point of time the counsel who was arguing may not have been in a position to clarify the doubt that the justices have. So that is what it talks about here. But we can only argue what is written in the petitioner can only argue what is written in the petition, and the respondent can only argue, that is the Union of India and the Government of Sikkim can only argue what is written in the counter affidavit.
So the stance of the Government of Sikkim has been the same since 2013, that they have no objection to them getting exemption.
So we got stuck in that, and unfortunately, what to say, because it is not written in the amended writ petition, and it has not been refuted in the counter affidavit. So counter affidavit, basically we have talked about saying that they should also be given exemption, granted exemption. So that is how it is. This judgment has come about.
So I just have a clarifying question. So right now, like if you look at the controversy, like a lot of people are saying that Hamro state government they didn't act. How could they like let this go? So the thing is about affidavit mache, they have what they say is they don't oppose like the old settlers getting the income tax exemption, but the people don't want it to happen in that sense. Their argument was not correct.
Yeah.
So basically what I can take away from this is like Hamro Mancheru, they are fine with the old settlers getting income tax exemption, but the way in how they filed their petition and their way of argument mache, there is a problem. Like the way it was phrased, and their argument for them to get it. I mean, why should they get it?
No, basically, because when I read this counter affidavit that is dated 30/11/2013, basically in the counter affidavit we have only dealt with the two prayers that has been asked for, right? Of course, the first prayer is in the amended writ petition. It is written here, amended writ petition is issuance and operator striking down the proviso of section 1026 AAA, the said proviso, insofar as a challenge to the said proviso, which as appears from the pleading of the writ petition is based on a plea that there cannot be discrimination against women based on who she marries. It is humbly submitted that the said plea requires consideration by this honorable court. The state of Sikkim would have no grievances if exemption that is available to a Sikkimese woman is not disallowed only for the reason that the woman marries a person who is not a Sikkimese. So by this everybody was equally treated, and then they have also been given exemption. It appears that proviso was incorporated to prevent abuse of the exemption from payment of income tax granted in favor of the erstwhile Sikkim subjects and their descendants. While Union of India may provide for necessary safeguard against abuse of exemption, it may not deny the benefit to Sikkimese women only for the reason that she marries an individual who is not a Sikkimese. The second prayer in the writ petition is to the following effect: issue a writ in the nature of a mandamus directing the respondent to extend in substance what is being prayed for, as can be seen from the pleading is in the amended writ petition. They again talk about amended writ petition, is that persons who are claimed to be old settlers are similarly situated as the erstwhile Sikkim subject, now described as Sikkimese, and their descendants, and therefore they also should be granted the same exemption at par with the erstwhile Sikkim subject and their descendants, whereas the state would not have any objection to the benefit being extended to the old settlers. So the state has no objection, and in the past had been supporting their demand. The state government would like to make it clear that the persons who are claimed to be old settlers are not identically placed as the erstwhile Sikkim subject of the Sogal, now described as a Sikkimese, the primary distinction being the Sikkimese in whose favor exemption has been granted were the subject of Sogal and citizen of the erstwhile Sikkim of state of Sikkim nation, whereas the old settlers are admittedly not the subject of Sogal and were Indian citizen, but residing and carrying on business and other activities in the erstwhile state of Sikkim nation. Further, in so far as relief claim in this regard, the state of government has no decision making role, and that jurisdiction and power to decide are on the Union of India, income tax being entry number 2 of list 1 in the 7th schedule of the Constitution. The Union of India may favorably consider the demand made by the old settlers. It is stated that the state government has constituted a government. So this is what the stand of the state government has been.
So what I could gather from that is basically there's no problem extending the tax exemption, but then there is a distinction between like who Sikkim subjects are and what the Sikkimese identity is.
See, the right as far as exemption is concerned has been given to them.
Yeah.
Okay, there's no dispute about it, or there's no fear in it.
Yeah.
But the effect of the judgment, and that is what the people of Sikkimese are worried about, people of Sikkim are worried about, is how it is going to pan out in the future, right? The old settlers have stated that they have been residing in the state of Sikkim from 1946 onwards, right? Their forefathers, right? 1946. Now, the effect of this judgment is, if you go to the relevant portion, okay, of the judgment is, I will just read the relevant portion of the judgment. In view of the above and for the reasons stated above, both these petitions succeed. Because there was a second petition also. The second petitioners, they I think 63 in number, they are the ones whose father had been working, whose father or mother, whoever was working with the government of Sikkim prior to the year 1969. 31st December 1969 को अगाडि चाहिँ जसको बाउहरु काम गर्दै थियो उनीहरुको छोराछोरीको क्याटेगोरी हो यो चाहिँ है. So in view of the above and for the reasons stated above, both these petitions, so this is the concluding part of it, this is the effective part of the judgment. The exclusion of Indian settlers who have permanently settled, the exclusion of the old Indian settlers who have permanently settled in Sikkim prior to the merger of Sikkim with India and such, okay, from the definition of Sikkim in section 1026 is hereby held to be ultra vires to article 14 of the Constitution of India and hereby struck down. It is because we exclude the Sikkimese term who excludes them from that category, so it is ultra vires bhaneko cha है. So they should also be given equal exemption भनेर चाहिँ second part मा भनेको छ है. Proviso has been struck down saying that all women, whether irrespective of married or non-married, should be granted exemption. So there should not be a classification. Now the second portion of the judgment, the second judge ko जुन चाहिँ उहाँले भन्नु भएको छ जस्टिसले explanation यहाँ छ अब सेकेन्ड को चाहिँ नि उहाँले के भनेको छ in view of the above interpretation, in my view, the explanation has to be saved from being in violation of Article 14 and 15 भनेको छ उहाँले चाहिँ of the Constitution of India, as there is rationale in the three clauses of the explanation, which is a reasonable classification which has a nexus to the object sought to be achieved, which is to grant exemption from payment of income tax only to those individuals who would qualify as Sikkimese in terms of explanation to clause 26 AAA of section 10 of the Income Tax Act. Thus, any individual not falling within the said clause would not be entitled to the said exemption भनेर भन्नु भएको छ उहाँले ठिकै छ भनेको छ. This would however be discriminatory as far as those settlers of Sikkim are concerned who had been domiciled in Sikkim subsequent to the promulgation of 1961 है until 1975. So यो बीचको है 15 वर्ष अगाडिदेखिको 75 मा जुन चाहिँ 75 मा थियो नि उनीहरुलाई चाहिँ when Sikkim merged with India, such individuals are old settlers who have become citizen of India from such and such, but who were domiciled in Sikkim prior to the said date. In my view, they are also entitled to भनेर भनेको छ. Thereafter, hence it has been directed. This is the effective part of it. I read the effective part of the first judgment. This is the second. Hence, it has been directed that till such amendment is made. She does not say that it should be struck down. So, till amendment is made, made in the explanation to section 1026 AAA of the income tax, all individuals domiciled in Sikkim up to such and such shall be entitled to exemption under the said provision from the current financial year 1 April 2022 onwards. This direction is being issued in exercise of the power under Article 142 of the Constitution so as to eliminate discrimination and disparity in respect of the aforesaid category of Sikkimese who subsequently such and such became and to save the explanation the explanation the explanation के छ भने Sikkimese terms from being redundant rendered unconstitutional vis-a-vis such individuals who form a small percentage of Sikkimese and who are also entitled to such exemption, such as approach is being adopted rather than striking down the explanation to section 1026 AAA मा. So what she says is यो fourth category add गर्नु त्यो Sikkimese term मा चाहिँ so that the Sikkimese term survives भनेर चाहिँ भनेको छ and there at the same time their prayer will also be benefited भनेर चाहिँ this is how the judgment is and thereafter 79 मा उनीहरुले भने in the reason are disposed of in the following terms that the benefit of income tax should be given to them also in terms so Union of India shall make an amendment to the explanation. So she gives a direction. This is at page 116. The Union of India shall make an amendment to the explanation to section 1026 AAA of the Income Tax Act so as to suitably include a clause to extend the exemption from payment of income tax to all the citizens. So this is where actually our journey actually now begins. This is where all the people must be aware of. This is where our government officials must be aware of and do a proper homework and make sure that only genuine people get the exemption. It says old settlers ko ta unale list पनि बुझाएको छ नि त. Old settlers have submitted as per the direction of the Honorable Supreme Court. They have submitted the list to the Honorable Supreme Court. Honorable Supreme Court has directed Government of India and Sikkim to verify those list of names which has been submitted and to grant exemption. So only these people should be granted exemption. It should not be like 75 भन्दा अगाडि आउनेलाई grant गर्दै भनेर होइन नि. So it should be now the tax is with the bureaucrats and the government of Sikkim. So this is where the fear of the people is also that it might be misused. That has been done in the previous cases also.
At this point, at least I'm feeling pretty clear about.
I hope so.
Yeah.
What about the rest? She still has doubt.
Still
You
has
ask.
questions. It looks like.
It's better you ask, huh? Don't go
We could
confused.
hear from Suvarna and Nawam also. I mean, we heard from Suvarna.
It's best to listen, no?
Two things. What's the worst case scenario? Suppose like
The worst case scenario is that I'm worried that our people might go back to sleep again. That's the worst case scenario, and not check what is happening. And we should be conscious. It is only when our people become conscious, all this misuse of power will not take place. Right? One classic example is यो ओल्ड सेटलर्सको जब इस्यु उठ्यो 2008 मा, त्यहाँदेखि यो इस्यु उठ्दाखेरि चाहिँ टु सेटिस्फाई दोज पिपल यो आरसी निकालेको हो नि त, रेसिडेन्सियल सर्टिफिकेट भनेर चाहिँ उनीहरूलाई चाहिँ के दिने भन्दा चाहिँ रेसिडेन्सियल सर्टिफिकेट दिने भने नि होइन. वी हेभ अल सिन द कन्सिक्वेन्सेस अफ द्याट रेसिडेन्सियल सर्टिफिकेट. कस्तो मिसयुज भएको छ रेसिडेन्सियल सर्टिफिकेटको चाहिँ, र कुन कुन मान्छेले चाहिँ रेसिडेन्सियल सर्टिफिकेट पाएको छ, द्याट ओन्ली गड नोस. सो दिस इज द फियर, my personal fear, and I think majority of the people also fear.
So just a question, like what's the difference between all these, like so हाम्रोमा COI छ एउटा हैन, that's Sikkim Subject I think, then we have this domicile, and then we have an RC. So like
As far as
So Sikkim Subject was the first in 1961 मा register निकाल्दा जसको नाम थियो उनीहरूले Sikkim Subject पायो हैन त्यो. Then their next generation, I mean sorry, हामी next generation त Sikkim Subject त हैन नि त, because it's post independence, it's not a kingdom. So now what we have is identification certificate, COI, which is kind of like an equivalent of the Sikkim Subject, you know. And RC is what you just explained about Old Settlers.
no, but I want a more in-depth thing about RC.
Sorry.
Because त्यतिको त मलाई I have an idea.
Okay, sorry guys.
What facilities do RC holders
like-
get? Just maybe that, and like
And who all are like who all are you to
the RC holders.
yeah कोले चाहिँ पाउँछ RC?
See, basically, if my understanding is correct, right, RC holder चाहिँ यही ओल्ड सेटलर्सलाई दिनु लागि गरेको नि त है, यही ओल्ड सेटलर्सलाई. यो ओल्ड सेटलर्सको केस चाहिँ के हो भने चाहिँ that their previous generation had been residing in Sikkim from 1946 onwards, right? 46 भन्दा अगाडि रिसाइड गरेको है, 46 भन्दा यता होइन. उनीहरू चाहिँ 46 देखि नै सेटल थियो सिक्किममा, र उनीहरूको बाउहरू चाहिँ बाजेहरू चाहिँ बिजनेस गर्दै थियो, र यिनीहरू चाहिँ ओल्ड सेटलर्स भएर चाहिँ यो जब हङ्गामा सुरु भयो यिनीहरूलाई सेटिस्फाई गर्न, उहाँहरूलाई सेटिस्फाई गर्नु लागि हेर्नुहोस् है, यु क्यानट ह्याभ टु आइडेन्टिफिकेसन. हामी सिक्किम भएर चाहिँ वी वर कल्ड सिक्किम सब्जेक्ट. 1975 को बादमा त सिक्किम सब्जेक्ट हुने कुरै आउँदैन नि त, राइट? दे वर गिभन एन अपर्च्युनिटी, दे मिस द बस. 75 को बादमा त म सिक्किम सब्जेक्ट के अरे सिक्किमको एउटा सिटिजन हो भने त कुरा होइन नि त. वी आर अल सिटिजन अफ इन्डिया, बट अफ सिक्किमिस ओरिजिन. वाट डिफाइन्स यु एज अ सिक्किमिस ओरिजिन इज अ सिक्किम सब्जेक्ट, राइट? और इन योर केस COI holders. Your fathers were a Sikkim subject, right? And you are also Sikkimese in that terms. But you are a subject of India now, right? You are a subject of India because you are born in India, right? So that was the distinction, right? In order to pacify them, right, the politician at that point of time thought it fit to issue a residential certificate to them, just to let them know that तपाईहरु पनि यो हो है भनेर, तपाईहरुकोमा यो आइडेन्टिटी छ है भनेर. ओके, नाउ सब्सिक्वेन्टली उनीहरुको के भन्नु पोलिटिकल अब उयो भन्नु के भन्नु हैन, लबी के भन्नु, सो भेरियस राइट्स वर गिवन टु देम अल्सो, इफ आई एम नट रङ, राइट? एज फार एज तपाईको छोराछोरीको आई थिंक कोटा है, MBBS को सीट, I think RC holders also get certain number of seats, right? So those are the rights that have been granted, and I think the other right was for allowing them to buy properties, landed properties in the rural areas, right? RC holder can buy land भनेर पनि I think the government took out a notification in the year 2017, 18, 15, 16, 17, 18 मा चाहिँ त्यति बेला नोटिफिकेसन निकालेको थियो उहाँहरूले पनि पाउँछ भनेर. Of course there was a little bit of hue and cry, but that is there.
But they cannot contest elections.
Now, as far as contesting election is concerned, that's a different subject altogether. If you have a voter card, right, you need to have a voter card, right. Again, important thing is, as far as the 12 seats are concerned, right, that is why 12 seats are concerned, that is Bhutia and Lepcha ko jun seat cha ni, right. If you see the what is the form that you fill for contesting the election, if you see, it says Bhutia and Lepcha of Sikkimese origin भनेर त्यहाँ लेखेको छ. So only those people can actually contest the election, legally speaking, right. Of course, rest of the about seats मा चाहिँ जस्तो general seats मा, of course there are SC seats, scheduled caste seats, a general person can't contest the election, but in rest of the seats, of course, if you have a voter card, you are free to contest.
Anybody from anywhere in the country can contest for the general ones.
In the general ones, yes, for that matter. You want to contest where?
So I was wondering to Nepali seat reservation.
That is why now the issue of Nepali seat reservation is concerned. That is to primarily protect Sikkim and Sikkimese.
Yeah.
And of course, they should be getting it, right? So one should actually take out this, I don't know, not an andolan as such.
So, coming back to the controversy, I can see it happening in two parts. One is like, what does the with the verdict, the exemption mean now for Sikkim? And another one is the word foreigner again.
Yeah.
Why? What purpose do you think, like, for what purpose did they use the term?
I do not know how it was been used, why it was used, I can't say. But when I read the judgment, the term, when I read the judgment in the whole, they have tried to equate that they were also from outside, but they got exemption. And even the citizen of India were also from outside, they should also be given. That is what they have tried to justify it, right?
But then that can be countered by saying that those people actually gave up their citizenship and then became a Sikkim subject. But
of course, even Marwari gave up.
yeah,
Business community also gave up.
those people are getting.
I do not know how the argument took place, of course, but as far as the counter affidavit is concerned, nothing has been discussed. I feel the counter affidavit should have laid down the history of Sikkim in a specific term, right? Stated, people from Darjeeling, for that matter, if I go to let's say Delhi, some of the people don't know what Sikkim is all about, right? They don't know if Sikkim is a part of India, right? So judges who sit in the Supreme Court, right, they do not know about the history of Sikkim. Right? I presume, right, they would not know in-depth knowledge of what Sikkim is, how it came about, Sikkimese. Of course, one can read, but that feeling, right, that feeling can only be told by organic Sikkimese, right? So I feel somewhere down the line we missed the bus. Somebody who knew about the history should have been there to assist the arguing counsel or to argue the matter as far as the history of Sikkim is concerned and how this has come about, right? And not only that, explain why the old settlers did not take income tax exemption, why they did not get income tax exemption. See, income tax exemption came about in the year 2008, right? 2008 मा चाहिँ income tax exemption आएको नि त. हाम्रो सिक्किम सब्जेक्ट 1961 को कुरा हो नि त. उहाँहरुलाई कहाँ थाहा थियो र कि भोलिको दिनमा चाहिँ यो नाममा रेजिस्टर गर्ने नाम चाहिँ सिक्किम सब्जेक्ट हामीले चाहिँ exemption पाउँदैन भनेर. So they were least bothered. Sikkim subject के छ कसै छ, looks like that, हैन? So they did not bother to go into that. But subsequently when the Income Tax Act was implemented from the year 2010, 2008, then they realized that of course we missed the bus. But from our point of view, perspective, we should have been able to explain these things clearly to the Supreme Court, because when you write the judgment, when you read the judgment, nothing of this, of course there is history has been talked about, but not in terms of what Sikkimese would have been able to explain, I personally feel. How they missed the bus, why they missed the bus, and it was not the fault of our government, it was not the fault of the union government, it was not the fault of the people of Sikkim and the Sikkimese people, right? It was not a fault. They missed the bus on their own. Of course, now the exemption has been given, that's the end of the chapter, but it has not come out in that manner. So somewhere down the line, I feel that we have failed, right?
The way it was expressed.
Yes. Because what the advocate expresses, the judges write that. And what is there in the counter affidavit, that is what the judgment. See, अब यसो नि argument हुन्छ, argument कहिले conclude भएको हो, हैन? Judgment त 2 महिना 3 महिना 4 महिना बादमा लेखेर बनेर आउँछ नि त. आज you tell me something, I will remember only few things, I will forget. This happens, like you must have seen your mother scolding your father in the evening when he comes out. I have told you to do this. तिमीले त बिर्सेछ त भनेर. म त बिजी भयो बिर्सिहाले. Supreme Court मा कति डरलाग्दो केस लोड हुन्छ, है? They will forget what you have said, right? That is why it has to come in the counter affidavit. And of course, when you are arguing, you have to explain everything, and then subsequently you submit a written submission also if you feel that somebody might miss something. So that is how it goes about.
So you were talking about Sikkim. I mean, so basically in court, the Sikkimese government was represented by the Advocate General, right?
Yes.
So what exactly are the roles of an Advocate General, and do they also are they also involved in writing this what is this
Counter affidavit.
Counter affidavit?
Of course,
and
of course.
also in addition to that question, this time there was a lot of I saw on the news they were attacking the Advocate General. So what was that all about? And I just wanted
See,
to know.
Advocate General is the highest legal officer of the state. They represent the state, not only this matter, almost all the matters that take place in the High Court and the Supreme Court. Okay, and they are the legal luminaries, expert, right? And they prepare the counter affidavit that has to be filed in the Supreme Court, in the High Court, or any other court, right? They prepare the counter affidavit in consultation with the concerned authority of the department. Like in this case, I think the land revenue would have been relevant, the home department would have been relevant, the history ko lagi ta archives, and people who are aware of it, right? All these people will see. As a lawyer, right, when you come to me as a lawyer, म आफै petition बनाउँदिन नि त. You tell me what your case is all about, right? म यस्तो हो यस्तो भनेर चाहिँ, then we put it in a legal term, that is in this case the counter affidavit, and then we file it, and it is also signed by the competent authority officer who has been authorized to sign that counter affidavit, right? And then they file it in the Supreme Court or the High Court. So this is how it happens. So they are the highest officers of the court, as far as highest officers of the state when you represent the in the Supreme Court or the High Court, the Advocate General. Then of course in the state government you also have the Additional Advocate General, who is below the Advocate General, and they also assist in the case.
So अघिको कुरा सुनेर, and this one also, so the disappointment has been about how the state government has like dealt with this khalkani, like how you said the explanation, how it.
See, we can't actually say how the state government has dealt with it,
But
how the judgment, in what manner the judgment has come out, right? The writing in the judgment, that is what the disappointment is all about. That is what the anger of Sikkimese is all about, right? Of course, we are to be blamed. We've never been conscious, right? Such an important case. Now I'll tell you about some other cases. हामी सिक्किमको चाहिँ कस्तो हुन्छ भने नि हेर्नुस् है, हामी सिक्किमको मान्छे चाहिँ कस्तो हुन्छ भने नि there's a matter sub judice in the court just now, in the high court. Okay. There are in fact 2-3 very deadly cases are pending in the High Court of Sikkim. One is with respect to Guru Dongmar. I'm sure you must have been aware of, right? People are hardly bothered. In that case, I represent a certain group of people, right? And in the court, I've seen only those people coming to the court. हाम्रो चाहिँ के हुन्छ भने नि त्यो गुरुदङमाका केस भयो है, I represent the जुम्सा है, त्यो हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ people who continuously come are the जुम्साको मान्छे, लाचुङपा and the लाचिनपा. Okay, and initially when the case started, that time opposition मा हुने leadersहरु पुरा आउँथ्यो, right? And then once the case is on, but our people then start trickling out, right? People should be conscious. There are old people who are conscious and they come. They tell us nani esto ho, nani usto ho bhanera ni. We become more conscious, and there's a more responsibility that has been put on our head, right? Something goes wrong, uhanle ta marcha malai bhanera, because they have been like, even though they're not part of the case, but they're conscious of their things, what is happening, right? So they come to the court, and see, it's an additional pressure that we take in, right? Which is nice. We are happy with it because they make us say that people are aware of it, right? And there is another case, I think, which is going on, which has been filed by Daughters of Sikkim also. I think there's another one. So why should the Daughters of Sikkim be classified in some other manner and not like the people, the Sikkimese people? Daughters of Sikkim are those I think individuals who have married non-Sikkimese. So that is another time bomb, ticking time bomb, I feel.
So basically these court cases jab high court ma hearing haru huncha, so it's open to public.
Of course.
No, and so like if you want to come, how do we know when like is there an information?
There's a website. Okay, there's a High Court, there's a website. If you say Courts of India, you can see any proceedings that is going on in the order sheet, of course. You can see any proceeding that what is happening in the case and all. Not only Hamra High Court ko, you can see Supreme Court, any district court also. So you can just go through, Google through it. Of course, you are like tech savvy and all. It's easy for you guys, no? Yeah. So you can just Google and then see what is happening, and then then the next date will always be given. So on the date that is fixed, so tomorrow is, let us say tomorrow is 8th, right? I think tomorrow is Monday, no? So 8th ma चाहिँ आज बेलुका कजलिस आउँछ, कुन केस चाहिँ भोलि छ भनेर. So you can always follow.
That's pretty nice, because I don't think we knew about that for some reason. Yeah. And now that I know it, so we are like we would like love to come and see, because Guru Dong
Of course, they serve tea, patties, they serve that also.
Like, awesome.
I've never been.
I'm just kidding, that one
There's
is.
a huge board outside High Court, no? That
Yeah,
digital board.
yeah.
So it's the
That's
ongoing
yeah,
cases.
ongoing cases.
So
and
we
all.
can just walk in and sit
Of course,
down.
now the courts are very people friendly, and हाम्रो courtsहरु चाहिँ कस्तो हुन्छ नि, it's very transparent, right? You can sit down in any hearing and hear what is happening. So you're most welcome.
That's pretty nice, because that's something that we as a group have been looking forward to, how to get more involved in all these.
That way you'll save your eyes also. Then you will save your from the laptop and iPhone also.
Yeah.
You'll be listening and hearing, seeing, right?
Oh, we saw it live.
Of course.
Question, like your petition file back गरेको थियो नि ओल्ड सेटलर्सले, they directly file it to the Supreme Court नि है, High Court मा भएर त्यस्तो गएको हैन नि हैन.
You have a choice, right? They could have gone to Supreme Court. They chose to go to the Supreme Court and not the High Court.
So it's not like.
I mean, like they were asking to amendment in the Income Tax Act, right? No?
Yeah.
But that act was for all of India.
No. Only particular section ko explanation matrai.
Which pertains to Sikkim?
सिक्किमको हाई कोर्टले चाहिँ क्यान अमेन्ड द्याट
No, amendment will be now. See, laws are made by the parliaments. It is their jurisdiction. So the Supreme Court has said, you please amend the Income Tax Act to that clause 1026 AAA चाहिँ amendment गरेर त्यसलाई चाहिँ यो एड गर पनि भनेको छ. यो क्लज लाउनु फोर्थ क्याटेगोरी अफ पिपल पनि एड गर्नु भनेर भनेको छ.
सुप्रिम कोर्टले भन्यो भने चाहिँ पार्लियामेन्टले मान्नै पर्छ or is it up to them?
Now that is another debate. Okay, law only parliament can make. It is not necessary that every direction given to the Supreme Court, that is given by the court, the government will agree to it. So the next thing is, I think this is the time to lobby with the central government, make sure that the amendment is done in the correct spirit and given to only those people who were meant, who had gone to the court, that 400 something old settlers plus 63 of the people who have been left behind from income tax exemption.
So I wanted to ask Ali Bakhar when Devesh was asking about that. So I remember studying in school state list or national list central list, yeah. So suppose something, so central list ma bhako things cannot be discussed in high court and all.
No, it can be discussed. Okay, supposing the state government or the central government makes a law, okay, and any individual can challenge that law, act, okay, and it can be struck down by the Supreme Court. It has been struck down also, right? Like if I'm not wrong, you must be aware एउटा Information Technology Act को जुन चाहिँ एउटा थियो that gave freedom to the press and all those things, and then government of India ले चाहिँ कानुन बनाएको थियो that curtailing all those rights, right? That Supreme Court had struck down at one point of time. So the Supreme Court can strike down the certain section of the act or the entire act itself.
So about right now, like a lot of people are filing like going and to the central government and saying like review petition or continue and all. So it's now the central government is giving some reassurance ki like we will help you testo garera, but it's always up to the Supreme Court, right, to
correct in one sense, but of course the Joint Action Committee went, right, and BJP led by the President Mr. D.R. Thapa personally went. We are very happy with the outcome of what has happened with Union Minister Mr. Amit Shah. He's given an assurance, right, and of course lot depends on the central government. Lot depends on, now we can say that everything depends on the central government, and they've given a very, very positive assurance. Amit Shah met the Joint Action Committee ko member led by Mr. D.R. Thapa, BJP ko president, it is short period ma bhetera chai. In fact, the central government has already filed a review petition after the JAC members met. They have already filed and have asked to strike down all that offensive words, languages, whatever it is there. And of course, everything depends on Amit Shah and Narendra Modi, right? Because they are the central government, right? Now, state government has filed review, the central government has filed review, and I hope the old settlers will also file a review petition as far as to expunge all those things, right? And when everybody says to the judge or justice says that we all agree that this should be deleted and it has no relevance in the outcome of the judgment, I'm sure the Honorable Supreme Court justices will also consider it and positively expunge all those words or sentences and all. I'm sure there will be a positive. But as far as the central government is concerned, as far as Amit Shah is concerned, for Sikkimese interest, he is a paramount importance. Not only for this issue, for many other issues like the ILP, the influx that is taking place in a small state of our, so that will also be important.
So Guys, we'll take 2-3 more questions and then
Just wanted to ask something about 371F also. Like looking at this and what are the future implications? Whenever, like you said, people are alikati scared about how this might like turn out and misuse or kura. And then there were some people saying somehow like 371F is getting diluted or whatever. So what are your thoughts on that?
See, 371 is not as a gift, okay. 371 is a article that has been inserted in the Constitution of India when we became part of India. Sikkim became a part of India based on the agreement. 1973 ko agreement is very, very important, and it says so also. It has been reflected, okay. 371 is a safeguard given to the people of Sikkim. It is our treasure, right? And every small issue, my personal perspective is like, if I ask you, Pema, your father and mother keeps a lot of money in a way, the suitcase, what will you say? You will not say, I have a diamond in my house and all. Will you say? There's such a precious things. So you will tell your friends, but you will not tell everybody, right? Yeah. Why? It's because precious, right? It is to be kept, right? We don't have to flaunt it. We don't have to say every single issue, we don't have to say 371F is being hampered, because then everybody starts getting conscious about it, right? Why 371F, right? And we've seen the consequences, right? And that is where our fear is also. Every small issue, people go to the street, every time everybody goes to the street and says 371F, which I don't feel right, right? There is a forum to discuss that. There is a place and a venue to do all those things. If you feel aggrieved by something, you go to the authority and then try and redress that grievance. You can't come out in the Facebook or whatever it is and then start talking about 371F rights and all those things, right? Of course, everybody has a right. You have a freedom of speech, you can go ahead and do whatever you want. But as far as 371F is, it is all about what we are, how it protects us. 371 also says that all old laws are protected. तर यहाँ old laws बिगार्ने चाहिँ को भन्छ नि, बाहिरको होइन नि त. We actually violate the old laws. It is our bureaucrats, our legislatures who have not taken all this into consideration. So now you've become conscious, okay, you've started the Manch and all. So in the future generations, I hope there will be more people, right? And then we will have a secure future for all the Sikkim and Sikkimese people. And then within the constitution, okay, and then important aspect is 371F.
So all these things have an effect on 371F, or is it like something that is safe and there?
It is safe, but of course this पहिरो कसरी जान्छ, एक एकवटा ढुङ्गा झरेर जान्छ इनिशियली हैन, पहिरो हैन, घर पनि त पहिला ग्राङगुरुम त भत्किँदैन नि त, पहिला इनिशियली बिस्तारै बिस्तारै भत्किँदै जान्छ. You know where it is being torn, हैन. लुगा पनि त, your clothes, of course now you buy torn clothes, that's a different issue altogether, but your clothes tear from a small side, right? And then if you don't stitch it in time, then it becomes bigger, right? So 371 also F is also the same thing. So if you don't small things, if you don't block it, then it might just lead to that one. That's the fear factor.
Okay, so one last question about, because I went through 371F and somewhere there it's written that anything that has to be amended will be amended after the 2 years within,
yeah.
But then we've seen that Amendment Act or so is that how is it getting like how are laws amended later on when it's written there that it can happen only 2 years after
that is what at that point of time, any laws that were prevalent in Sikkim, we have a lot of laws in Sikkim also, right? We have the Sikkim Subject regulation, right? And then we had building bylaws also, old Kothio, right? So anything that had to be amended there, okay, of course the central government act, anything that had to be inserted or extended, or that had to be done within 2 years, right? That is what the constitution says, right? But fortunately or unfortunately, that has not been followed by the state government to some extent and by the central government also to some extent. Right? The Income Tax Act was not allowed there. We had our own income tax manual, but subsequently it had been repealed.
So it can be and it's not something set in stone.
That is, if something really goes wrong, and when you go to the court, that's a point of argument, right? When you go to the court, of course, for that we'll have to go to the court, right? Look, this is what the Constitution says, and you've done this. This is illegal. You'll have to go to the court. Somebody has to go to the court. I don't mean that you please go to court for everything, right? Because things might backfire also. So your 371 is safe, don't worry.
No. I just wanted to understand in terms of the acts or constitution, and my understanding was that what's set is set, about law to law, we have to follow it.
Law, say, I will tell you, it is evolving every day now. Okay, right? It is evolving every day, right? Certain laws were taboo, right? Back. Now, those are all legal, right? So now you can choose your partner wisely, right? It is not a taboo, or it does not forbid. Now, certain class of people have been given certain rights, right? That were not there. So it is changing. IPC, hamro jun chai IPC cha, Indian Penal Code, right? It keeps changing every 6 months, 7 months. It keeps amending because we'll have to keep pace with time. Information Technology Act was not there. It came about, right? Now everything, even the Code of Civil Procedure, even the Criminal Procedure Code has been amended to keep pace with the Information Technology Act. So it keeps evolving. It is supposed to evolve. Even the Constitution, kati amendment bhaisakyo ni ta, so it can amend.
So kind of like the same question. So you 371F ma ke changes ल्याउनु छ भने, if the people decide that they want to make some changes, how do we go about that, doing that?
Unfortunately, people can't make decisions for that. It is the legislature.
Yeah, sorry,
You'll have to.
legislature.
That is why you'll have to choose your leader wisely, and not based on which community or which caste. Not that leader, not the MLA. Chief Minister candidate belongs to. Basically, that is what we do, right? A Chief Minister चाहिँ कुन चाहिँ community को, अब यसको MLA लाई चाहिँ भोट दिनु कि नलिनु. That is one factor. अर्को factor चाहिँ गान्धीजी. Plus, did you understand what I mean by Gandhiji? What? Cash and kind. So if we start deciding on whom to make as a leader on basis of Gandhi and Black Label or Teachers 50, and then who the neta is, not your MLA, but usko mathi neta चाहिँ को हो main neta, त्यो हेरेर decide गर्यो भने चाहिँ यस्तै हुन्छ.
So, but that means it can be amended through the legislature.
Of course.
Okay.
We have to have smart,
Yeah, obviously.
competent people over there.
Now I'm going to go.
No, मेरा चाहिँ question थियो like
How do we bring about changes in the old law? In the old law, if you have to pass a new act, just so you were talking about IT Act, and Parliament, if we need to pass it, we Sikkim, I think what the leaders have to make sure is जुन चाहिँ पनि नयाँ act आउँदैछ, it does not violate त्यो हाम्रो 371F को जे पनि छ, and then review the act, then pass it instead of just blindly.
We don't pass it, right?
I mean,
People, the legislature, right? Legislature can only make laws within their parameters. There's a union list, there's a state list. Within the state list, the legislative assembly can make. As far as the central government is concerned, it is the member of parliament. So we have a member of parliament. He has to be conscious. He has to know what is happening, right? And he has to, because when an act is made, okay, discussions takes place. It is circulated to all the members of the parliament. They are given a copy. There's a discussion that takes place. You can also move, parliamentarian can also move private bills. An individual MP can move a private bill and make it an act. So that is also there. So at the end of the day, चाहिँ, it all boils down to who your leader is, who your representative is, whom you choose as a representative.
So basically, our next time when we go to vote, like I think a lot of people, like they said, like young people, make them leaders. Like your current government, I don't mean to be that way, but like like young person, no one.
I understand.
When
did you vote last?
I didn't vote last time.
You have not voted. Have you voted?
For the panchayat, I voted. Yeah.
Who told you to vote for such and such X person? Your parents.
Yeah.
Right? That's the reality. Right? आमा र बाबाले ए राजा त भोलि चाहिँ यहाँ दबाई तैले ल and then you go and press that button, right? That is what we do.
Yeah.
We've been doing that, right? अब मलाई त यो मान्छे मनै पर्दैन यसलाई त म गर्दिन. That's what how we decide, right? यसले त मलाई यति पैसा दिएको छ, यति रक्सिस, यसलाई पुरा सगाएको छ नि मलाई. यसले मराउमा मेरो यस्तो बडा खर्च यो खर्च पुरा सगाएको छ, भोट त म यसलाई नै दिन्छु नि भनेर, irrespective of the fact that that person might be a Dumbo number 1, right?
I feel like it's important. अब अहिले हामीले जे कुरा गर्दैछ कि like important, like I feel like हाम्रो यहाँको मान्छेहरू, like when we go to vote, we don't realize the importance of it.
Yeah, of course.
And we just go and it's a short-term thinking, like, but the whole thing is getting affected, and it's high time that we need to realize like this will have like very bad effects in the future. So, like, so for someone
this is the end result of if you don't choose your representative correctly.
Yeah. So now coming to like, okay, I want to choose a good leader, but it looks like there is no option, no? So should we have a system where like we know what each one is about? Because in Sikkim, I've never seen like leaders actually talking about their vision or having debates or anything like that. It's mostly they'll just go around with their young goons and their jhandas and all, they'll do rallies and all. And people don't really talk about all the policy and the things that matter. So if we could have, do we need an electoral reform of some kind?
No, they have already, reform is taking place every day, electoral reform, okay? At the end of the day, it boils down to the voters, okay? Until and unless we reform ourselves, right? That is why I think you have a Manch. This is the platform. You can organize a debate between two candidates.
Yeah.
Right? What stops you from organizing a debate between the two candidates? You can, right? You should start, in fact,
that's
right?
Something we have been.
And then you call these people to the forum and discuss, right? In America, that discussion did not take place overnight. It took time, right? It's high time that we should start doing this, right? And what we must understand is these MLAs, they choose their leader.
Yeah.
You can only choose, you don't choose the chief minister. You only choose the MLA directly. Indirectly, of course, the chief minister also, because the party that you vote for, right, if he wins, then that this leader, he will become the chief minister, he or she, right? So all this has to be discussed. Now, I think slowly the debate and all has started to some extent. So you can take it forward, and you know whom to vote and not what your mother or father says.
Yeah, if people could, the family wala thing.
So from what I'm understanding of the situation, it's not the verdict itself, but how it was phrased, right? Yeah. And that could have been avoided if there was greater participation or like more like a more authentic voice.
To some extent, yes.
To some, which to me translates again into like us being aware of what's happening. But as like a young person, all of this seems very intimidating. What are some like easy steps or like things we could do to be involved without like directly going to the court or something like that?
No, you don't have to go to the court, right? You have a media, right? Just now you're recording this, right? All that you need to do is put it in the social media, right? Right? And you have a group now, Manch. You can start a discussion forum. You don't need, see, to change a thing, right? To change a society or to change, there wasn't many people, right? One person is enough to change, right? You must see our neighboring country, right? And our neighboring state, a lot of things are, you feel that things are changing, right? For example, if you go to Nepal, Kathmandu, don't you feel, right? They are on a better path, I feel, right? You've seen that in the social media. It didn't take too many people to do that, right? Just one, right? You must have heard about the mayor of Kathmandu, right? You must have heard about the name of Rabi Lamichhane, right? They are bringing in changes, right? In here also, recently there was an issue of all that, Lal Bazar ko, the mayor of Gangtok, right, on his own. You don't need too many people, right? If you start, tomorrow you might be a leader, and then people might follow you, right?
So you think we should just talk more, basically?
Yeah, of course. Discuss everything, and then be open-minded, and not cow down to the pressure. Of course, I think first hurdle will be your own home, your own parents. You'll have to come over above that, right? Of course, Manch is a good platform that you have, and then he said it is the forum that was discussing. I had just gone there to participate, right? And your parents might kill me. I'm teaching all these things.
I had a question about the steps that are being taken now to get the controversial words and phrases struck from the record, and that seems like it would solve the current upset.
Yeah, true.
But what steps, as far as the court system is concerned, what steps can the state and the people take to make sure a similar misunderstanding and oversight doesn't happen again?
That can only happen when everybody is conscious and not treat a problem as not my problem. Until unless somebody pees on your head, you are least bothered about what is happening in the state, right? Your parents will be the first one say, that is none of your business, right? Everybody says that, right? When somebody is fighting for injustice also, the parent says, bate no to che. Tola ki khos. That's I'm sure your parents have said that also, right?
So,
tomorrow there might be a forum of parents, huh?
So you had said that there was the previous written petition and the amended one, where the previous one had the statement where if you're not going to give it to us, take it away from them as well. And then that is, the people were conscious then, and the petition...
No, not as such. People were not conscious, only the few groups were conscious, right?
Yeah.
And they realized their mistake, and they corrected it. That's only with few groups of people. Yesto khalke koile bhako chaina ni ta. Sikkimma bhayo bhako chaina ni.
And then they corrected it, but this thing still happened. So what can be done to avoid that in the future?
That's the review petition. You see, justice writes a judgment. अब mistake हुन्छ हुँदैन भनेर कोर्टले गर्नु सक्छ भनेर, there's no bound it, right? He or she sits in the chamber, writes a judgment. What she writes, we will not be aware of it. So you cannot say we can do. All that we can do is we should participate, we should be aware of it, and whoever our representatives are in the Supreme Court, be in the High Court, should be aware and conscious of the history of our state. Sikkim ko चाहिँ उनीलाई हिस्ट्री चाहिँ याद हुनु पर्यो, फटट भने चाहिँ हुनु पर्यो नि.
So I guess I think the people of Sikkim always have to be on their toes and also keep the leader on their toes, because our leaders have grown too comfortable, I think, and हामी पनि त्यस्तै त छ, passive, complacent खालके, avoiding conflict. So right now what's happening is a very good thing, because something, people are really now out there. So if we could have this, अब जहिले त्यो rallyहरु गर्नु भने, but always have this active, the citizens हुनु पर्यो नि. So that's very important, I think.
So I think everybody can do a little bit when it comes to things like this, and I think this is our little group's way of doing our little bit to get this out to other people like us who were confused about this, or had any kind of questions. So I hope all of us here are a little bit more clear than we were when we got here.
A lot more.
A lot more. I'm like chenge khalke. I mean, I still might get questions at night, but now it's up to me to maybe go ahead, read more, be informed, and I hope everybody who's watching this also feels like they've learned something and are clearer on this topic. And yeah, would you like to say a last few words before we conclude?
I would like to thank you all. Right, it was such a wonderful time with you guys, and of course girls also here. And all that I want to say, in fact, I said this yesterday in a meeting also, that बल्ल बल्ल हाम्रो मान्छे जागेको छ, अब चाहिँ नसुत्नुहोस् है. I don't mean literally don't go back and sleep, right? Be conscious, right? Every individual can make a difference, right? When these steps, we have already started a step, this is where we can leapfrog and then go forward. We should not go back home and relax and then, of course, you do your own work, but when it comes to making a conscious decision, you should take a decision which is always right for your children, right? Your future generations. Till date, we are only bothered about making money, right? And then what my children is going to do, right? Paisa pura thupara, right? But if your society goes haywire, if you do not have the identity of Sikkimese, right, then what is all this all about, right? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Namkha, for being with us today. And if anybody has any questions about the verdict now, you can reach out to anybody on this panel. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Or you can always come to us if you want to be a part of future discussions with us. And if you have any suggestions for what we could discuss next, also you can reach out to us. And yeah, thank you so much for being with us. Cut. Yeah. I think that was great.